Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello, all. Welcome to the Data Management Subcommittee of the Trash Monitoring Workgroup. Sorry, we're getting a bit of a late start. Hey, Margaret.
All right. Got the whole dream team here. Start typing out roll call.
I like how relaxed Margaret appears. She's really taking it easy in her office. Hey, Gary, how's it going?
Hey, Tony. I just got my audio on. It was still haven't figured it all out, it seems like.
Hey, when are you? I think I heard your voice.
Yep, I'm here. I'm just typing away the people who are here.
Okay.
All
I'm
right.
gonna make you a co-host, Win.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I can. I guess I can share my screen. I'm dual wielding right now. I got my here. I'll turn my video on. I got my phone hooked up to the video, and then I got my computer on the other one. So if you make here, I'll just share the screen. Let's see.
I'll make both of you co-hosts, Win and Win.
Thanks.
Okay, so now we have two Win co-hosts.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Hey, Jarma, Jana, Ross, how y'all doing? Hey, Jenny.
Hi, doing well. This is Jana.
Good to see you.
Hello.
Hey, Jarma.
Hey, this is Ross. Yeah, I'm doing well too.
All right, welcome.
Okay, I think I got everybody. So we are ready to roll. I guess we could do I could just briefly go through the agenda, and then we could do our everyone checks in briefly, see if there's any updates or anything going on, any trashy things going on in people's lives lately, specifically related to data would be really cool to hear about. And so yeah, so I was thinking we could go over do a check-in with everybody. Then Ross is going to talk to us about adding the trash taxonomy tool, which we've developed as a group, to the website that he has. Then I was thinking that we could talk about the charter. I reached out to Shelly and Christine recently, and assessing that from an anti-racist lens. And then talk about the co-author updates. So I sent out an email on that to everybody, and then check up on milestones from last week, and then finally maybe we can get into any other projects. It seems like the trash taxonomy might start not being a central focus of this group, so we have room to do other things too. So anyways, so maybe checking in, we could just bounce off. What do we got here? Jarma, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, though I am finishing my lunch, so I'm kind of mid-bite, but I'm good, thank you.
How you doing, Jenny?
There we go. I'm good. Just hanging in there. Surfrider's working on some pretty exciting updates to our own beach cleanup database. So that's been kind of what's on our priority list right now.
Nick Mort, I can't pronounce his last name, Moritano. He sent out, Surfrider is asking people for data related to the pandemic. Is that correct? And he sent out some announcement that you all have.
Yeah, so our Hawaii chapter is doing an awareness campaign of like PPE items. And then we just updated our database to include its own like COVID-19 priority items so we can start tracking those and having kind of just a better idea of what's actually ending up on the beaches in relation to the pandemic. So
Interesting. What are the big questions that you're trying to answer with that data? Like, what are kind of the main things?
we just kind of want to know if there is an increase, specifically with PPE and like single-use takeout items. We're all about reusables, and so it'll be kind of an interesting study just to see what increases are happening, if any. If it's actually not ending up, then that's obviously a positive, but just so we can kind of track some of the more like plastic related impacts of COVID-19, not outside of the health aspect. So that's been kind of a pretty interesting focus for us for the time being.
We at SFEI, and I don't mean to step on your toes, Jenny, but just it's topical that we at SFEI have been approached by now 2 reporters with questions about trash monitoring. What have been the changes to the trash loads that people are seeing? Our inability to give a definitive answer either way has to do with our not doing field work right now, at least not during the first few months of this crisis. So we didn't really have much information to share, but it has been our interest to connect with others who are doing field work. So if Surfrider is able to pull together these data, it would be really good for us to be able to point to you as someone with some information on this. Yeah, because I think that there could be things moving in both directions. That is, with fewer feet on the ground, fewer people out there, more people sheltering in place, it could very well be the case that that general trash loads are reduced. But as you're pointing out, maybe the characterization of the trash is different. So you're seeing a lot more PPE, and you're seeing maybe less fast food waste just generally strewn about because people are doing more baking bread at home and things of this nature that is not generating as much trash. So it would be interesting to see the effects. We've already seen the effects on things that are much faster to change, like air quality, but it'd be good to see if water quality is affected as well.
Yeah, definitely. Some of the updates are relatively new, like a month right now. And since group activities are quite limited, we've got a solo beach cleanup guidance out. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what the year looks like as things kind of keep progressing as these kind of solo cleanups keep going. But yeah, definitely. We can for sure share this. All our data is public, so we're happy to collaborate more for sure.
I'm super curious when you start looking into this data, how you will correct for solo cleanups versus group cleanups in your like interpretation of the data.
That is a big question that we're grappling with. So, because we normally track our cleanups like with group one, so our chapter network hosts them. We are still kind of looking at how we should classify the cleanups. We're also looking at, we track number of participants as well, so that might help kind of even out like the trash per people or per cleanup, but it's kind of a big question right now. I don't have a definitive answer for you.
Yeah.
Jenny, is your methodology published? I mean, can we look at the methods that you use to collect these data?
Yeah, definitely. We have a website. I can type it into the chat as well. Currently, it's only open for like our direct chapter and student club network, but you can see like our data cards, what the forms look like and everything. I will type that into the chat.
Thank you.
Of course.
All right, I'll call on maybe Jana. How are you doing?
Good afternoon, everyone. Doing pretty well. Don't have any huge significant updates, although I do echo you, Tony and Jenny, that field work has been a little bit more limited in the last few months due to COVID. And also curious to what that effect is on trash levels out there. So something that our company's been thinking through, but yeah, no solid or any tangible type of updates for the group at this time.
Ross, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. The only real update I have, we're going to be talking about on agenda item 2 with the whole trash taxonomy, so I'll kind of hold off on that until we get to that point. But everything else is going just dandy.
Sweet. Let's see who else we have. Gary?
Hey guys, let's see. I'll just share one update. The other week, I had a pretty long conversation with Leo Constantini at State Water Board, who helps provide guidance on the city's NPDES requirements for the statewide trash amendments. And one thing that was interesting was hearing about the degree to which regions around the state are struggling to deal with how close in space they need to make trash observations and how frequently in time. The reason it sort of relates to the item that just came up. Often, really, what people want to know is like, are things changing? Right? Is it getting better or worse? And an important factor for being able to do that is how precisely we're able to make the measurement. Right? The less precise we are, the more difficult it is to tell whether or not things have changed because those measurements kind of overlap. So it sounds like they're struggling with these data that all the cities are collecting, figuring out, first of all, how do we assess that precision and get to being able to answer those questions on a regional or even a statewide scale. And I mentioned to him the work that this group has been doing and looking towards developing a way to possibly combine a lot of the different trash data that are being collected, that the more data that are together, it could better help them address those questions. So good to know that other folks in parallel to this group are thinking about some of the same questions that we are. And I think this group has even advanced into the thinking of it a bit more than some of the other groups.
Gary, I just want to chime in on that note that BASMA has been developing their receiving waters monitoring program, and as part of that, they were receptive, I think, and tuned in to some of the things that we've been pushing along in the last few years. And I noticed that as part of their data publication, they did put out a concentration, a density calculation that is consistent with what we had been arguing is necessary to do the crosswalks among the different methods. That is to have precise enough spatial measurements that they can say there's this much trash per square meter, if you will. And that, I think, is vital to not necessarily the temporal questions that you were raising about how frequently you would do the surveys, but it does help to get to a point where we can have those density calculations be the more or less universal measurement that can give at least a general trash load calculation, or you might say a kind of status, if you will, at least, so that we can get more precision on how much per square meter we're talking about. And then we could also further entertain the idea of how densely packed your assessments need to be, but that's something that I think is a step forward that we're seeing BASMA adopt that wasn't necessarily on the radar before. So that's good to see.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know about that. I'll look it up. That's cool to hear. I was mostly talking about the last item that you're talking about, sort of the spatial density of those observations, how close in space they need to be to reflect, say, the overall trash loading in the city. But that's great. It sounds like they're going the right direction. Awesome.
All right. Most of the things for me are currently on the agenda already, so I'll go into those when I get to them. Did anybody, Tony, do you want to give an update?
Sure. So I've kind of implicitly provided a couple updates in my responses to others. We've been solicited for feedback from different reporters about characterizing trash, particularly in the Bay Area. In addition, we've been making some progress with our work that we've been doing in service of Margaret's US EPA group. So at the last trash monitoring work group, you heard from Margaret talking about the Escape Trash Assessment Protocol, or ETAP for short, which is a combined qualitative and quantitative method whereby they assess an area qualitatively, but also measure each individual piece of trash according to a tally method, and characterize each individual piece of trash according to threat and aging, if you will. So there's a lot packed in that method, and we are continuing our validation of that method in much the same way we are for different monitoring methods as part of a OPC-funded project. So we are making progress on that, and we should be wrapping that up at the end of this month.
My internet just cut out, so sorry. My screen sharing is off now. I don't know. I'm running off of 4G on my phone, but my house internet's down, so maybe somebody else could share a screen.
Sure, I'll go ahead and bring it up. It's part of the invitation, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Part of the fun right now.
It's part of the fun and part of the invitation. So let me just bring that up.
Margaret, is Margaret still on?
I'm here. I don't. I'm here.
Oh, hi.
Yeah.
I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah. Not much to report this month.
Cool. Well, good to see you. All right. Sweet. So we can jump into our agenda. Did anybody have anything they wanted to add to the agenda?
Does everyone see the agenda now?
Yes, we can see it.
Great, thanks.
All right, cool. So yeah, this early go around that we just did was a result from our last meeting, talking about how we can be more inclusive of everybody within the group, and specifically addressing, microaggressions and systemic racism through just some simple steps, checking in with everybody to make sure that everybody has a voice during every meeting. So hopefully that's not too rigid or anything, but I mean, I'm sure we'll make it flow a little bit better as we go. If there's any other principles or kind of little things that people can think of that would make this group a more cohesive unit, feel free to, does anybody have any other ideas of things that we could be doing?
I think one of the things we talked about last time, and I just wanted to toss it back to us as a reminder, is the idea that data requires context. And one of the things that I think as the kind of data-centric people that we should take as a challenge is thinking about how the data that are published about trash could benefit from additional context that might otherwise help to elucidate the ways that we might cast judgments over people associated with the thing that we're monitoring, namely trash, right? That is, trash is somewhat unique when it comes to water quality monitoring, because it is bound to the ways that people, the average person, interacts with the environment, versus things like mercury and PCBs, where that's more either the product of old industry or natural or some kind of mining intervention or something like that. So I think it behooves us to think about ways that we can either highlight the systems that produce the trash and lead to trash productions, apart from some of the things that we might assume to be the case. So, looking at patterns of poverty, looking at ways that we might, I've seen, for instance, people will say, if you look at places that are poor, you're going to see more trash generated, when really it might very well be that those places that are poor have fewer services. And so it's that there's more escaped trash because there's not as much trash capture happening there. And they're being overlooked, and there's also trash being dumped in areas from outside communities coming in and seeing them as neglected, and therefore they're vulnerable and they can be treated as such. So I know this is a big idea, but what I mean to say is that we should think carefully about the extra data that we can bring to bear more consistently, so that trash data interpretation is more holistic in a sense. And that's not something we're going to solve today, but that's maybe a recurring theme to revisit at the appropriate times, to think about ways that we are making assumptions about people connected to the trash that we are characterizing.
That was really well said. Thank you, Tony. Are there any other feedbacks on this question? Okay. Well, if anybody ever does, this is definitely a place to speak them. And I think we have a really great collaborative group here who's really open to challenging ourselves to make the world a better place. So yeah, if you ever do have any ideas on how we could be a better, more cohesive group and have some key principles that drive us, that are a little more helpful in the world, then please share them.
If I could share one more idea, Wynn, I think that this is a little bit more, so what I provided before is just kind of more of a general, principle, but I think that one of the specific things we can do at the appropriate time is to bring a socioeconomist in who would be conjoined, not necessarily even to our group, but to the homelessness group, with the idea that that's something that we don't have really at our disposal. That's an expertise that we often don't have, because we're more physical scientists a lot of the time.
Right.
I'm assuming. So we're either technologists or physical scientists. So having a socioeconomist come in and provide a different perspective on how data are interrogated, and also how to be aware of bias when you are interpreting those data. I think that could be very illuminating to us, and we could benefit from that sort of presentation. And I don't have anyone specifically in mind. I do have some connections that I can pull on, so some prospective people, but I'm not doing this because I have the ideal person lined up.
Does anyone else know any social scientists that that we could reach out to and have them either give a presentation to our group or be more involved with our group?
Hey, so this is Ross. I don't have a specific person in mind or anything along those lines, but another separate project that I'm working on right now is a little different, but it's kind of working on the overlaps between certain racial and socioeconomic inequities and how that kind of overlaps with communities that rely on subsistence fishing. So it's not exactly the same, but I'm looking at a lot of different resources, and if I come across anything that seems relevant or seems like a good point to bring up, I'll make sure to keep you guys in the loop on that if I find anything useful.
Thanks. Okay, great. Well, Ross, maybe we can go to talk with you as a group now about incorporating our trash taxonomy website. So we have, I don't know if you have access to it, Tony, that you could pull it up, the trash taxonomy website. Let me see here.
Yeah, can you put that in the chat window?
Yeah, it's trash me dot shiny apps.io slash trash taxonomy. Pretty sure that. Let me see if that works for me.
Did you send it?
Sorry, it's in the agenda.
Oh, okay.
I now put it in the agenda and I'll highlight it.
Great. Yeah, I was looking at the chat window. Okay. It's good that you got trashtaxonomy.org. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. Yep.
Let me share. Are you seeing my window, or are you seeing the trash taxonomy?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Do you want me to walk through it, or what are your intentions?
Yeah, I just kind of want to show people in case they haven't looked at it. I mean, we don't need to like walk through everything in this because we've already walked through all these different slides and stuff before. I just wanted to refresh people's minds. We have these relational tables, we have descriptions of them, and we have a tool that can help people to query the relational tables in this website. And so we wanted to figure out how we could, since this is kind of like the first big product from our group, we wanted to figure out how we could showcase that within the Water Monitoring Council's website. And so that's why we brought Ross here today to figure out how he might be able to help us with that.
Yeah, sure thing. So, like I said, so I'm a Sea Grant fellow, so I'm really just here for the year. Last year, the state fellow who was in my position, Anna Holder, redid the Healthy Watersheds Partnership website, just kind of revamped it, made it so it kind of coincided with some of the other work groups on the website, and added a lot of resources to it. So that's one of the projects that I'm working on. We're still in the process of putting together exactly what we want in there. So it's at the perfect stage that if we wanted to include something like this. And essentially it's going to have a lot of different tabs within it, talking about the past workshops and datathons that we've had. It's going to have a page for each subcommittee. And so we could absolutely make another tab that highlights the trash taxonomy, either as part of the entire work group or just this subcommittee. We can put it wherever we want, really. We can even make it its own standalone page. I haven't really worked with Shiny Apps in the past, so I'm not sure if this is something that you'd want to embed right in the page or just create an external link to it, I think, which would probably be a little easier. But either way, I think it's a fantastic idea that we incorporate this in the website. And if anyone has any ideas about language you want to use for it or anything else related you want to include in that tab, I'm all ears, and I can, because we can really do. We're redoing the page, so we can include whatever we want to. It's not like we're beholden to any restrictions or anything. So
I should just add really quickly that we did get approval to spin up a new or to use our trashmonitoring.org website as a kind of bolt-on to the main site, and it's referred to there. So if we wanted to stage this on the trashmonitoring.org site, I'm happy to facilitate that.
yeah, that's a good point. Several of the pages already have. I think we're going to be incorporating links over to that as well too. So I think there'll definitely be a lot of link-based collaboration. So yeah.
Yeah. So when just from within my own powers to speak to that, I can't speak to the vast powers that Ross wields. Mostly wizard in nature, but also some human powers. We can create our own little mini page to talk about this trash taxonomy. I think it would be appropriate. One thing that does occur to me though is that will come up, I think, when people see it, is how does this or does this not compare to the literati taxonomy? Just once we put this out here, then people it will invite comparison. So
Right.
I think that there are some overlaps and some differences. So it would be good in the kind of introduction to this to talk about how its function differs from that home taxonomy that they put out there. And we could I think just immediately address that rather than putting it out and then inviting those kinds of comparisons and questions. So it would just, it's not a big deal. I just think that we can maybe forestall that.
That's a good idea. I was also thinking, is anybody here a graphic designer or have some like graphic skills? Because I really want to make a nice way to represent what the trash taxonomy does and what its goals are. And I don't have those skills, and I'm not sure that the undergrad that's going to be leading the paper that's coming out of this has those skills. But I think that would be something that would be really great for us to post on these websites, is have a little infographic that shows, oh, this is what a trash taxonomy is, and these are the things that are within it, kind of quickly, so that people can understand it.
We have a graphics guy. You could, if you send me a description that I could forward on to him, we could see what he does.
Okay, sweet.
We have those resources too, but the challenge is that we don't have funding for this, so it would be a little harder for us to make the capacity happen. But if Margaret has someone to put that towards that's fantastic. That's free money because it's federal.
Absolutely. Thank you, Margaret. I will reach out to you. Okay. Cool. So it sounds like some sort of small description. Do people have other ideas on how they'd like this to be visualized on these different platforms where we're going to start showcasing it?
I just had a question about, is there an invitation for people to contact somebody to add to it or make changes, as they find new items, if that's possible?
Oh, we currently don't have any like built-in functionality for that, but we could add on the about page like a contact information, or maybe one of those like comment forum pop-ups.
Yeah, just something simple, an email address to go to.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
When the only thing, whenever I look at things like this, I mean, I'm familiar with this now from your graphics before, but if I just got to this page, I think the thing that I would want to see most is a visual representation of how these different types of data are related to one another.
Yeah.
The brands, the items, and the materials. And, you know, so you can sort of see the relationship between the hierarchies and how they join together. So that could be, I mean, I know you already have it because we've seen it a bunch, but integration of that visual to this page might be valuable.
Yeah, when along those lines, what I would recommend you do is to take your mind map that expresses these things and refine that as you need to, and then deliver that to the designer that Margaret is volunteering, whose time Margaret's volunteering. Right. But to use it as a kind of like very lo-fi entity relationship diagram that Gary's seeking here. It can be something generalized, but if it were some way to express the relationships among these specific items, which, as I recall, have, you know, there's hierarchy and alias, and I think that some of these have presence in your mind map, but some are not exactly represented. So you might need to make some revisions before you can hand over that taxonomy part of your mind map. But I think that would be the place to go.
Okay. All right. Yeah, thank you all for that input on the trash taxonomy. Okay, so I guess next step for Ross then and Tony, or next steps for me is that I need to get this info over to Margaret so that we can, and then once we get a nice visual made, then we'll post it on the web on this page. We'll also post it on these other pages and make like a short summary of the tool.
The only other thing I think of, Win, is I don't know if they exist or not, but like in this page, we just have field names like X1, X2, X3, and so there's no, you know, sort of like meaning attached to the field names. And I don't know if there are meaningful names, it can sort of give an intuitive sense of what those different levels in the hierarchy mean to somebody viewing these tables. Intrinsically, it's just, well, there's different levels, and we're going from more general to more specific. But if there's some way I know that'll be communicated by the graphic, but because we have download buttons on this page, if people are going to download the tables and try to understand it, that's the thing that makes it either the fields having meaningful names or just like sort of the data dictionary, the descriptors of what each of the levels in the hierarchy or aliases. The alias is less important, I guess. That's more understandable, but.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea.
Just if it exists already, you may as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll think about that a little bit more too. How we can better represent these names more quickly. I was also thinking of, there's this new thing that I just found. It's like a way to make a hierarchy tree into like this really nice graphic that like compresses all. Anyways, I'll have the person who's working on this paper make these, and then I'll show them off to you guys. But I have some other ideas on how we can show that what we're doing on these different pages a little bit better. Cool. All right. I'm recognizing that my the agenda I laid out is too ambitious. We only have 15 more minutes, but that's all right. We'll make the best of it. So group assessment of the charter. So last time we talked about reassessing the charter for the Water Monitoring Council trash monitoring group that we are a subcommittee of, and what we wanted to do was look at that charter and try to reassess whether it had the principles that we think will be best to make it as impactful as possible. And so I talked with Shelley and Christine, and they said they love the idea of reassessing the charter. And so I'm wondering if folks here would like to, what I could do is I could get the charter and I could bring it into like a Google document and then share it with the group, and then we could all kind of brainstorm on that document on how it could be improved, and specifically focusing on how that document could be used to drive forward anti-racism, which is the action of fighting against racism with what we do in the world. So anyway, so that's what I was thinking for that. Does anybody have any other ideas they'd like to add to how that could be better? I was wondering if people have other resources. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel, but maybe there's already somebody who's like written up a whole document on how to like reassess your your charter from an anti-racist lens.
I mean, that sounds like a good idea to me. When I actually, it took your guys, Lee, your and Tony, and that suggestion for here at Second Nature, we just decided to do the same thing, just review the stuff that we have to communicate our mission as a company and whatnot, and just start there and make sure that's reflective of our values on this front. So thanks for the idea.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Okay. Cool. Well, I will go ahead and do that then, and I'll share the charter with the rest of the group and make kind of a hosting site, and we can just work on that as a group over the next month, however much or little people are able to contribute. And then the plan is from there to share that with Shelley and Christine, and they're going to share it with the rest of the subcommittees to have their input. So it'll be like a full reassessment, and then we'll vote on it as a full group afterward. So probably over the course of the next couple months, we'll be working on that. Okay, let's see. Co-author update. So did anyone not receive an invitation to be a co-author on the trash taxonomy paper that we are working on right now with there's going to be an undergraduate. Her name's Hannah. I would like to get her on these calls actually, but she's going to lead the peer-reviewed manuscript of the trash taxonomy. And we've already got like a rough draft kind of sketched out. I sent around an abstract. Is there anybody who I missed here or who didn't receive that?
I don't think I received it, but maybe I received it and misunderstood it.
Okay, I will resend it to you just to make sure. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anybody.
Margaret, are you allowed to be co-author?
I don't know. Do you know?
About the US, I'm speaking specifically about US EPA rules of kind of.
No, I understand. There are a lot of federal rules, and we have a whole ethics team that can advise me. So
yeah.
Once I know what I'm asking, I can forward it to them.
Sure. And just a quick quick question on details. Has it already been accepted to a journal?
No.
Okay, so this is preparing the paper in advance and then looking for a publication spot.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And so we'll have a full co-author meeting in a couple of weeks. I'll be sending out a doodle poll here soon this week, and then we'll identify a best time, and then we'll have all the co-authors get together and we'll flesh out all of the details on publication and author order and how we're going to address this. We already have like 15 co-authors on this paper. It is really becoming a really great collaborative piece. We have a lot of really brilliant minds on that one, so I'm super excited about it.
I just want to note that Walter Yu has joined us. Welcome, Walter.
Welcome.
Hey, thank you. Hey, Win. Also, yeah, I'm interested in that paper, so I'll respond to your email. Thanks for sending that out.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Thanks, Walter.
Figure it's fitting given that it's all data these days for me. So.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so let's see. We got about 9 minutes left. So 2 more things we want to do. Check up on milestones from last week, and then any next projects. So one milestone from last week that I was kind of mulling over. We like packed so many great things into last week.
You mean our last meeting, right?
All right. Yeah. Sorry, our last meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Last meeting. And into our last meeting. And so anyways, there was one thing that kind of slipped through the cracks that I think we could have better addressed. And actually Tony brought this up earlier, to reach out and see who else we should have at the table. And I think this is going to be a lot better than me just going and like researching people. I think it could be something that we can do as a group, and we're all kind of identifying people and reaching out to other people who could be a part of this group in some way, or we could be listening to. And so I'm trying to think of, I'm looking for input on how we can better do that, how we can attack that problem of or that question of how do we make this group more diverse and make this group more more connected to people.
So one thing that I'll mention on that topic, which comes from a totally different group that I'm part of in my non-EPA life, which is working on traffic safety, and they were sort of asking the same questions. They're like, we have this core group of people for whom traffic safety is a real issue, real concern, and we know there's a lot of other people who also want to cross the street without getting killed. So how do we bring them in? And the realization over time was we actually have to go to them. That it's not fair to ask people who have limited time and abilities to attend meetings to come to ours as well. So I don't know how much that applies to this, but it was a different way of thinking that made a lot of sense to me. I mean, that's kind of what I'm doing here, is showing up in your California meeting just because I can't ask you guys to come to do all my stuff. So.
Oh yeah, that's really insightful. I never thought about it from that perspective. I guess from that perspective, it's not so much of a question of like, who do we have to bring in here? It's more of a question of like, what events are already going on that we should go to and spend our time listening at. And that seems easier to address, actually, for like, just maybe we could even kind of search and see what groups are out there that that are already having meetings or already doing things in this space, and then figure out who of us can also partake in those groups. Is that kind of making sense, or am I not on the right track?
That's the way I understood it. I mean, there's always the possibility that you'll connect with someone and they will want to join your group, but that wouldn't be, you know, the goal. It'd be more making sure that you're connecting with the different people whose Venn diagrams overlap, but not necessarily completely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hey, Wynn, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Walter.
I think that's a pretty good model. I mean, volunteering for Code for America, there's kind of a loose coalition, and then each local brigade has to kind of communicate with their, like, you know, cities and counties, things like that. So the way we do that is kind of with that model is where we, you know, we try to do coverage and have someone attend and try to, you know, just kind of do gradual ongoing outreach that way, without kind of creating a big burden for the group. So it's kind of a, yeah, good way to kind of see what's out there and do it over time.
That sounds totally smart. I think that another suggestion would be to leverage the relationships that we already have here, but extend them further. So in the homelessness and in the community-based science, we have connections to different cities and different counties. And I think that that we could do a better job maybe of reaching down deeper into those county and city services to find, because many of those places are very diverse. We have one representative representing a city or something. So it would be great to see if our own representatives who are on those committees could direct us to the kind of appropriate venues where a diverse citywide representation comes together, with maybe needs for information particular, but also service related things, and seek out that audience so that we can share what we're doing. I think that it could be an eye-opening experience for us. I think it would be a two-way, we have to regard it as a two-way communication. And Margaret, I'm taking that's kind of what the way that you're framing this is that it's both, it's bi-directional as far as the communication goes. So that's one thing. So tapping our current resources, human resources, to kind of as a vehicle into the different community venues. Another is that I was invited to present to the California Resource Recovery Association, and this is a recycling organization, totally dead on target with the kinds of things that we do. I don't know how diverse that community is, but I think we need to target our audience a little bit thoughtfully to ensure that we have diverse representation. If that's indeed if that's the goal, we could end up talking to homogenous groups in the end if we're not being thoughtful about how we tap into already diversified audiences. So I think we just need to do a little bit more thinking about how we judiciously expend our time so that we're going before the right audiences.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, thank you. That was really great insight from everyone who just shared. I really appreciate that. Okay.
When on that note, just thinking of the action item, would it be helpful if I reach out to the leads of the homelessness work group, starting with them and posing this question as to what are some appropriate venues where we could reach out to diverse communities that they may already be connected to and serving?
Right. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, so I'll do that.
Okay, thank you. All right. So I guess really we're at time, and this last question was just kind of like, I think that we are going, as a group, we've been spending a lot of our energy focusing on the trash taxonomy, but now that that piece is starting to get, is going to be chunked off, and the people who are deciding to be co-authors on that publication will be probably spending a lot of time critiquing that. And so this opens up an opportunity for our group here to, during this time, to have additional things that we're going to focus on. So I guess that could be something that I'll just leave everybody with to think about for our next meeting. Oh.
Sorry, I was talking to myself. So if I'm reaching out to the homelessness subcommittee, do we want to ask Walter to make forays into his Code for America group? Or Walter, were you thinking about that as just an example of ways that the periphery talks to the core?
I think there's actually, we meet tonight. I can ask them. I think there's an overlap here because I think there's, even though it's around focused on code and open source software, there is that overlap, I think, of equity and community action. So I can, I guess, what is the ask? Are we just looking for contacts or folks that would be interested or we could present to, or like what should we request from them? Because they also have a network, here in Sacramento that we can tap into.
Wynn, do you have concrete thoughts on that? I don't want to commandeer it, so I'll defer to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be good to know, like, what are the groups that make the most sense for us to be connecting with. I think that's something I'm still trying to wrap my head around. Does it even, like, it's great that you're connected with this Code for America, because that's probably like connected into people who are actually thinking about data and have data questions and would be most valuable for us to be connecting with, because that's what our focus is here too as a group. And so I think kind of the first question is like, what other groups that have enough overlap with our interests are out there that we could be either going to their meetings to learn from them, or giving presentations to them, or listening to them about their needs, and figuring out how we can incorporate those into the projects that we're focusing on.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so pretty much, yeah, go ahead.
I was just wanted to add in, I think that sounds good, but I would want to focus it further, because I think that it's if you come with a kind of vague, kind of approach, it might not lead us fruitfully forward or as quickly. And what I would recommend, Walter, if you're talking to your team, is to focus on the taxonomy and what the value of that would be. So in other words, you can say that this particular group is doing a number of things, but most concretely, we're moving forward with the idea of having a standard taxonomy to identify trash, with the idea that it could help with crosswalking different trash assessments and being able to kind of have a more standard way of identifying trash according to material, item, brand, etc. And it would be great if they were engaged on this and could help to advise us on the efficacy of this type of tool or information tool.
Right.
I think that that's something that they could maybe get their mind around a little bit more than just kind of, we'd like your input on stuff we're working on.
Sure. I think what we'll probably pull from then in that case, probably either City of Sacramento or County of Sacramento. And yeah, we can, I know we have contacts there, but yeah, I'll ask, and potentially other state agencies. Those are kind of I think the key stakeholders we could probably get. So yeah, I'll ask about that tonight.
Great.
All right. I got to drop off for 2 o'clock, but yeah, I'll go ahead and do that, and I'll keep the group posted.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Everyone.
All right.
Hey, Tony, sorry, one quick request. Can you send out the link to that BASMA documentation that you mentioned?
I'm not sure it's published yet.
Oh, okay.
We're hosting their data, so I just saw that they have concentration in there.
Okay.
I haven't even had the conversation with them as to their thought processes. I just know they went forward with it. So
Got it.
I think their report is imminent as far as coming out. So when I see that, I will let you know.
I'll look for it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Jarma. Thanks, Ross. Thanks, Wynn and Carrie.
Thanks, guys.
See you all.
Bye.